Hello beautiful people, happy to have you back on my channel. Please, if you haven't subscribed yet, support me by doing so. Our today's tutorial is on how to sew a yoke dress, which is also a traditional dress for most women and girls in Cameroon. Here in Cameroon it is called a kaba. This is the part 1 of the video. The yoke extends from the shoulder to the upper chest, which is the area of the chest just beneath the armhole. So for this tutorial, the length of the yoke pattern will be the length of the full bust. To draft the yoke, we need the following measurements: full bust circumference, upper bust length, shoulder measurements, neck measurements, and armhole measurements. Start by drafting a rectangle. The width of the rectangle should be the full bust circumference divided by 2, as it is the largest part of a body's block. Here I have 96 centimeters as my full bust, so if I divide that into 2, I will have 48, which is half of the full bust. Divide the width of the rectangle, which is 48 centimeters, into 2, and this will be 24 centimeters each. The second rectangle could have been for the back pattern, but since the front yoke only differs from the back yoke at the level of the neck, I will use just one pattern for both and will only make adjustments at the level of the neck. So let's concentrate on this 24 centimeters rectangle, which is a quarter of the full bust. Come up to this shoulder line and mark this edge as point A. Measure 8 centimeters inwards, which is the basic neck width for an adult. When you must have been done doing that, mark that point as point B. From point B, measure 9 centimeters downwards as the basic neck depth. Repeat the same procedure from point A and connect the points. This creates the basic neck opening for an adult front bodice, that is 8 centimeters by 9 centimeters. You have to note that the basic neck measurements can always be adjusted. Go to the upper left angle of the rectangle and measure 4 centimeters downwards, then mark that point as C. Now connect point C to point B to create the shoulder slant. Measure 12 centimeters from point B along the diagonal line as the shoulder measurement. 12 centimeters is the length of my shoulder from one side of my neck towards the glenohumeral joint, also known as the shoulder joint. From point C, measure 18 centimeters downward, which will serve as the armhole length, and mark that point as D. 18 centimeters is the standard armhole length for an adult, but can always be adjusted. Measure 21 centimeters from the shoulder line downwards and trace the upper bust. Also measure the full bust. Mine is 26 centimeters. It differs from person to person. So for you to have yours, just place your tape from your shoulder to the fullest part of your breast, and you will have your full bust measurement. Gradually trace a type of reversed L shape from the 12 centimeters shoulder measurement down to point D. This makes the arm to sit more comfortably inside the dress. Go to point E at the center front of the bust line and measure 1 centimeters downwards. At the end of the 1 centimeter point, draw a diagonal line to point D. I will now go to the neck and adjust the neck width and depth according to how I want it to be. The neck width for the center front and center back are the same, but the front neck depth is about 2 times deeper than that of the back. Now I'm inserting the center back basic neck measurement, which is 8 centimeters by 2 centimeters. Let me now create a center back neck depth of my desire. The front and back yoke is done, guys. We are only left with some adjustments at the level of the armhole, which will be done when the sleeve must have been drafted. Go ahead and mark the areas along which you are going to cut by drawing these scissors type of structures. Of course, if you see a scissors somewhere, you will certainly think of cutting. Now let's draft the sleeve. To draft the sleeve of the kaba or yoke dress, measure your bust circumference divided by 4 and trace a horizontal line using the value. I have a bust circumference of 96 divided by 4, which equals 24. At the left edge of the horizontal line, label that point as point A, while at the right edge of the horizontal line, label that point as point B. Divide the 24 centimeters horizontal line into 2. That's 24 divided by 2. It gives 12. Use that value to trace a vertical line from point A downwards and from point B downwards. Now connect all the points in such a way as to form a rectangle. So label the second horizontal line as point C from the left side towards point D on the right side. Increase the length of the sleeve by measuring from point A downwards and from point B downwards. I want my sleeve to be at least 21 centimeters long. So it's a short sleeve. It's not a dress with a long sleeve. When you're done doing that, connect the points with the help of a ruler. Draw a diagonal line linking point C to point B. Measure the diagonal line and divide it into 2. Here I have 27 centimeters as the length of the diagonal line, and 27 divided by 2 is 13.5. Divide each of the halves again into 2. That's 13.5 divided by 2, which will give us 6.75. Make sure you mark all these division lines with your marker. At this first point here, measure 1.5 centimeters downwards and mark the point. At the third point from the left, measure 2 centimeters upwards and mark the point. Now create a curve connecting these measurements, passing through this point that divided the diagonal line into 2. Measure the length of the armhole curve on the yoke pattern and use the value to measure the armhole on the sleeve. The armhole curve on the yoke pattern I have here is 25 centimeters, and by the time I measure the same value on the sleeve, I'll have some excess left. Measure the length of the excess and place the value at point C, and deduct it from the length of the sleeve armhole. Place the round arm circumference divided by 2, and from this 4 centimeters point you deducted at point C, trace a line down the length of the sleeve. After doing that, I'll just go ahead and indicate some of the lines along which I'm going to cut by drawing the scissors type of structures. I'll now go ahead and cut out the sleeve pattern. Come to this edge of the yoke pattern towards the armhole and measure 3 centimeters upwards. This helps to give the yoke a very good shape, but note that it reduces the length of the armhole. The length of the armhole that has been reduced will be replaced on the gathering fabric. Place your ruler and draw a line from this 3 centimeters point down the length of the yoke. I'm retracing this with my bare hands because there are certain parts of a garment that are not good to be too straight. Cut along that line and prepare your fabric for sewing. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to watch the part 2 of this video so you can see how I actually put the different fabric pieces together in order to achieve the yoke dress locally called Kaba in Cameroon.